Hi, everybody. Welcome to Kendell Lenice Live right here on YouTube. Thank you so much for continuing to come back. I'm getting so much positive feedback from this interview series. So do yourself a favor and do me a favor, subscribe below. Hit the subscribe button so you can be notified when all new shows are uploaded. So hit the notification bell as well as subscribe to the channel. I greatly appreciate it. All right, so today is like all the others, but like no other. Why? Because I have an amazing guest with me today. As you know, I think all of my guests are amazing and they're doing great things. So this is my opportunity to spotlight them. You know that my show is all about education, elevation, and entertainment. So hopefully we'll accomplish that in this show as well as the others. So I'm pleased to announce my guest, but before you see her beautiful face, I want to read her bio. Miss Arilia Winn of Winn Publications. Leader, a word that applies to Arilia Winn in every facet of her life, from the adversity she's faced and overcame to the role she plays in the community. Raised by parents who believe in God and in the golden rule, treat others as you want to be treated. Arilia's life is a reflection of these values. Her decades of learning and growing through the teaching of the Bible, college institutions, and the School of Hard Knocks, Arilia is devoted to helping others the best way she knows how, and that's creatively. After 7 years of studying journalism, fashion, PR, creative writing, audio engineering, and news writing, Arilia graduated with her BA in 2014 from Bethune-Cookman University in Daytona Beach, Florida. The same year, she gave birth to her child and became an amazing single mama. After graduation, little did she know that she was going to create a successful publishing business, her own work, and she publishes her own work, and she assists other authors and writers with writing and publishing theirs as well. So let's welcome Arilia Winn to Kendell Lenice Live. Hey, Arilia.
Hey, thank you so much for having me.
You're welcome. Thank you. I'm so glad that you reached out because I think you're doing fantastic things in this industry, and I definitely wanted to speak with you because I think I told you, I'm looking to start my own publishing company, so I can learn a lot from you. So I love to see that women are doing it.
Yeah. It's fabulous. It's a fabulous thing. I don't know. Can I go ahead and say kind of a little bit about it, or you wanna?
No, you can go, and then I'm going to talk to you about some other things too. But yes, go ahead. No, for sure.
Oh, okay. I don't want to jump the gun. I'm known for like, oh wait, no, that's going to be a question. Oh, my bad. So, I was just saying, huh?
No, I said you're excited if you watch this show. I'm always excited, so I can appreciate your excitement.
Okay. Yeah, I just, and it's so funny. I learned how to be a publisher from another woman. I feel like it's her and my story kind of reflect Madam C.J. Walker's story, how she learned from another woman and kind of had made suggestions to her about improving the business or taking her on a little bit further, and was shot down. Well, that's kind of similar to how I got started. Is I was working under another publisher as her editor and seeing some things that she could improve, and she did not take my advice. And so after about a year later, I just said, I ended up not working there anymore. And so then actually a few years later, I started my own publishing company, just kind of by demand.
Wow, I think that's so important. And that was a nugget that you gave, because it's so important to really learn what you can while you're under someone, because they might not always teach you what you need to know. That's why it's important to just be in the room, to show up in the room, to study what you can, to learn what you can in any field that you're going into. That way you're able to take it into your own business as an entrepreneur. So even if she didn't want to further you along, you still learned what you needed. And that's what God does. He'll put you right in that position to learn what you need. And then when it's time for you to do your own thing, you already got it. So did you have any intention on starting your own publishing company, or as you were an editor at hers?
I had no intention of starting my own company. I just was like, I just want to be an author. I had stories that I wanted to tell. And I was like, great. You know, I wanted to work with a publisher because as an author, that's how I heard, like, you get in. You know, it's either you submit your transcript or maybe you try and work with one and then you submit your transcript through them and they might, you know, give you some sort of favor for being an employee. So I was like, okay, cool. I found a job as an editor for a publisher, thinking, oh, she's gonna, you know, after I work with her for some time, I can pitch my story to her and then she'll say yeah, and then I'll have a book deal and I'll become a famous author and I'll have
Yeah.
a movie and all this stuff. I was like, yes, okay, we're in. But it didn't go that far.
But it gave you so much more.
Yeah.
It gave you so much more.
Yep.
And I think that that's a key that a lot of viewers, you guys need to look at that. You might have a plan, but then God has another plan that will even take you further and surpass really what you had in mind. I think that's an important lesson. And often that happens because you go into a job, you're gung-ho, you're like, okay, you know, I might have health benefits, but I got other benefits here because I got a goal, you know. And a lot of times I've heard a lot of people who started publishing companies say that they did it out of need and necessity to create, because once you're a creator and a writer, you know, your juices are always flowing. So that can be costly if you're constantly paying someone else, or if you don't, you know, have a major book deal. So I want to talk about that too, and the importance of just having independent and self-publishing companies. But before we go into that, I would be remiss if I don't mention the state of the world today and being quarantined, COVID-19, the coronavirus. Has it affected your life in any way personally? And first, how are you? How are you?
I'm doing okay. So a few different things. One, you know, I as an author and independent publisher, I had a full-time job, 9-to-5 job. And so I'm on general leave until either my child goes back to school or I can find safe, you know, reliable childcare, whichever happens first. And so I'm working from home now. My child is home, so I'm also a homeschool mom, which we kind of do what we want. And so it's been, you know, I seen that meme where it's like the kid is like telling their parent like, oh, my math teacher doesn't do it like that. And you know, this is a new teacher, new day now. And so I've had to tell my child that several times, like, you know, you get used to Miss Winn. This is how it's going to be if I'm your teacher. But just on the heavier note, yeah, my grandma, she was diagnosed with COVID-19. And she's in her 70s. I believe she's like 77 years old. And she's in, you know, there was an article that said what I'm about to say. And I say that she was in the worst state for it to happen possible. Not New York, but I'm talking about Mississippi. And so she lived out in a rural area, and she was sick maybe for 2 weeks before she was taken to the hospital. And she was taken to the hospital once. I don't think they tested her. They just said, you know, go quarantine at home. Well, if you know anything about Mississippi and the rural areas, home is like is a trailer. And so quarantine really doesn't happen well. And so anyway, she got worse off and they sent her back to the hospital and said, okay, they ended up keeping her the second time. And she's had some near-death experiences to where I think they said she had went into a cardiac arrest one time.
Wow.
And that's just from battling the flu and COVID-19. But yesterday, actually.
Flu and COVID-19.
She had the flu and COVID-19, yeah.
Wow.
And so it really took a toll on her body. Just yesterday, actually, my mom was telling me that she's actually doing way better. She's recovering from COVID-19. She's healing from the flu. But of course, if you have been in the bed for like a month and a half, your muscles and things are weakened. So that's her next part of her recovery, is just building back up her strength so that she can go home or go to somewhere safer, because they're thinking that sending her back to her home, the trailer that she was in, is probably not the best option.
Wow.
We're
God bless
working
her.
through some things as a family. Is just,
Wow.
you know, trying to keep moving forward through it all. And so yeah, it's been difficult this last 2 months. It's been
Mm-hmm.
really hard. Mm-hmm.
Is she home by herself?
She's home with one of my uncles, and so he had it. He had COVID-19 as well, but he's in his 40s, and he recovered with just medicine and quarantine, how they were trying to do her, but she wasn't taking the medicine. She was sick. She was sick with the flu as well, and so she was really out of shape before they took her into the hospital. And so there was an article that said that Mississippi was one of the states that was hit the hardest and had a lot of the stats for those that have died were really high. And
Wow.
so my family was really concerned that, you know, she might end up a statistic, but she is, but more so in a positive way.
Is that a big city for Black folks, for African Americans? I know, because, you know, our number is much higher than our counterparts. So Mississippi.
And in Mississippi, they still deal with a lot of racism. And so I don't want to say if that played a part at it or not, because the nurses, so far, they've been really helpful with my family. They'll set up like an iPad and let us get on Zoom and talk to her. Even when she wasn't awake, we would still get on Zoom and talk to her and pray for her and stuff. And it was so funny. One day we were on Zoom with her, and we were talking about her favorite foods, and someone mentioned a fish sandwich. Why did she start moving? She started moving like she almost like she opened one eye.
That's what we do. Well, that's what we do when we get good food. We're like, we move our feet.
My family was like, no, you're not to a fish sandwich.
Whatever it
so much joy. Yeah.
Whatever.
And so we were grateful. We're grateful for the nurses and those that have been helping us. But she had to go out of town because, again, like I said, rural Mississippi, I'm talking about the woods. Like, you don't have a neighbor for another like 15 miles or something like that. And so she lived in the rural area, and so they had to get her to a better hospital so that she can get better service and everything. And so that's what it took.
Well, first I must say I like your earrings. Let's start there. I was trying to see. I like your earrings.
Thank you.
But yeah, I'm so glad that your grandmom, you know, survived it. And I really wanted to talk about that because the death numbers are just outlandish. You know, something that we didn't think would be in our lifetime, many of our lifetimes. Experiencing a lot, but who thought that we would ever experience a pandemic that was taking people out of here with force? So I keep hearing about the death count, and I'm just so pleased that this is a survivor story. You know, your grandmother and uncle survived, so it hit, you know, a couple of places in your family. So it hits differently when it's connected to you, right?
Yeah. Oh yeah. It's something. It's really something. And, you know, I don't know. Politically, I know it's a big political thing. And so unless you experience it, and I think that's with anything in life, unless you really experience it, you have no idea how the person who's dealing with it feels, how their family feels.
Yeah.
And if you look at life and relationships a little bit different, you start appreciating birthdays a little bit more. Thank God for another day. Just different things mean so much more to you when you feel like you're going to lose out on something that's so important to you. And so it's like, you know, thank God for a second chances.
Yeah, thank God for second chances. You're absolutely right. Because there's so many people, and this is, you know, no disrespect to anybody out there who's asked me, but so many people ask me to go to this cookout, go to this barbecue, meet me here, meet me for dinner. I'm like, absolutely not. Even though some states have opened back up, I'm still quarantining. I'm still doing what I'm supposed to do, my mask, you know, my gloves, social distancing, because, you know, so many people are still getting it. In all the states that have opened prematurely, the numbers just increase dramatically. So, you know, and I always tell people, I say, until it hits your family or someone you know or somebody that you actually speak to, then it's not real. You know, you see people out here. I mean, look at the news. And I'm sorry, Black folks, you know, I'm talking to y'all because I love y'all. Y'all need to practice social distancing. You need to follow the quarantine rules, and you need to be safe, because a lot of people ain't checking for you and they don't care if you die from this. Let's just be honest. So I just really want us to really stay safe and really take this seriously. Listen to Arilia. She just said her uncle and her grandmother had it. Thank God they survived. But what happens when the people's loved ones don't survive? You know, so I appreciate you just taking that time, Arilia, and to share your story, because that's deep. And like you said, birthdays are different. You know, your blessings when you wake up, it shows itself different.
Yeah. That's true. Life in general. I'm like, wow. You know, a lot of different people that I talk to, they've been like, oh man, I can't get my eyebrows done or my nails and stuff done. I'm like, I'm not even tripping. I'm not even tripping off of that. Like,
exactly. I'm like, so
at least you're still alive.
Or a toe, right? That's why I said nail or a toe or some hair ain't worth it. It's not. Yeah. And like you said, at least, because what you gonna do? Be sharp for your casket?
Yeah.
You know. So I'm with you on that. I'm with you. All right. So I definitely want to switch gears, and my prayers to your family. But I want to get back into your publishing world and what you're doing. So when you decided to start your publishing company, what was that mindset like? What were you thinking about? Did you feel like it was your time? Did you feel like you were forced to do it? And what was that journey like?
Like I said, it started kind of by a demand. One of my cousins, she reached out to me and she was like, hey, Arilia, I have an idea for a book. Could you help me publish it? And I was like, yeah, of course. And so she's like, okay, like I need you to edit it and I need you to kind of go through the whole process. And I was like, okay, cool. But I was like, in the back of my mind, I was like, oh, I have a book idea too. And maybe I should publish my book before I publish hers, just so I know, like, I have concrete evidence that I know what I'm doing. And so I was like, okay. So I told her, yeah, but I was like, let me hurry up and like put my own book together first. And so my first book was a devotional for Christian single mamas. I am a single mom myself. And so I have whole nother creative thing that I do with single moms who love the Lord, just because they have a special place in my heart. But I was like, okay, I'm going to write this devotional. I'm going to put this out before I put out my cousin's book. And it came out. I was excited. I promoted it. And then I started reading the reviews. And all of the reviews were like typos. And I was like, oh my God. So I went and looked back at the book, and sure enough, yeah, there was typos. A lot of the scriptures were wrong.
But people don't realize when you're writing a book and you're editing yourself, you know in your head what you want the words to be and what they should be. So you're reading based off of what you wrote in memory. Yeah. And sometimes it's not actually what's on the page. And so, but so many textbooks have typos. So many, you know.
But it was terrible. So I was like, ooh, unpublished, delete, take this off of Amazon. I shut that book down so fast. I only mention it as, you know, my stepping stone, because now I absolutely make sure I get somebody else to edit my work.
That's right.
But from there, I was like, oh, I got the blueprint. I know what I'm doing. I know the process. So when it came time to publish hers almost a year later, which was a whole nother thing in itself, just kind of learning how to work with somebody else. And once hers came out, I was like, oh, that's a wrap. Like, oh, I know what I'm doing. And what started it all as well was she wanted it to be professional. And I was like, yeah, if we're going to do it, like, let's just do the whole thing. And she was like, well, I want to put like a publishing company's name on the back of my book. And I was like, okay, I guess I can start a publishing company. And I was like, what am I going to name it? And then I was like, well, my last name is kind of catchy, Winn.
Yes.
Like, there's so many things that I can say about it. So I was like, Winn Publications, boom, let's go, let's get it. And so from then on, it's been history. And so I definitely, you know, shout out to my cousin. Thank you so much for pushing me in that direction. And that was 2 years ago in January. And so since then, learned so much. I've published 3 books of my own and about 9 books of other authors. And so, and I'm working on some things for this year as well. And so I'm excited, and I just keep getting better. I'm like, every year there's something,
That's right.
good that I've done. And I'm like, yes, yes, yes. And just counting every win and every success. And so it's been exciting. It's been an exciting journey so far.
See, but that's what it's supposed to be like. Of course, there are learning curves and there are growing pains when you're starting a business, especially when you're doing something that you're unfamiliar with or something out of love. And the reason why I say out of love is because your family member came to you because they knew that you were capable. They knew that you had a background in a sense, and they knew that you would succeed and get whatever they needed done. And I like that you use yourself first, because that's what I'm gonna do too. To make sure, I use me. And I write all the time. I'm a writer, so I have so many books that I want to publish, and I have books already published and out there since '05. But there are so many creative things that I want to do, a children's book, as well as my continued self-empowerment, novels I've written. And then, like you, I want to help other people with stories and testimonies to get those out as well. How important is it for you to tell stories that help other people and positive stories? How important is that, or is that a factor for you?
Yeah, absolutely. Every author that I work with, they have a story or a message behind their book. And so just recently, an author that I worked with, her name is Fabrine Chabrizo. She wrote a book called All of Us. And in her book, she just talks about real life situations that she's experienced. And you can find yourself in any chapter in her book, because we've all experienced things like that. We've all experienced hurt, breakup. Some of us have experienced, I don't want to say harsher things, but maybe sexual assault, dealing with parents who are drug addicts and things like that. And so, and that was the most recent book. I have another book coming out called Identical Strangers. It's by author, his name is Cleve Bush. And so his book will be out this fall. And his story is, it talks about some of the struggles in the military. It talks about some of the struggles with like CPS and things like that. But his book is more so classified as a thriller. And so he covers those messages with a creative spin. And it's so, oh my God, it's so cool. But then, of course, myself, like, I'm writing good stuff as well.
That's right.
My latest book that I wrote and published, I published it last year on June 28th. It was my daughter's 5th birthday. And so my book
that's my mom's birthday.
Okay, yeah, she's a Cancer. They're good people. So,
those sensitive, sweet Cancers.
Oh my God, yes, so sensitive. So sensitive. But it's called God is Gracious. A Christian single mama's thoughts, prayers, and poems for her daughter. And it's dedicated to my daughter. Her name is Gia, and it means God is gracious. And I just wrote about what my life has been like for the last 5 years as a single mom. And I think a lot of it will relate to other single mothers, but it will also relate to just parents and moms in general, and just those who are thinking about having children. I definitely recommend that they get my book, because in it, I share kind of a funny story. Whenever the doctors told me, like, okay, now she can eat solids. And so in my mind, I thought, oh, okay, solids meant like fruits and veggies. And so for 2 months, I think I only fed her fruits and veggies and milk and solids, until I overheard some ladies talking about how they did the same thing, and how solids also means like cereal, and like the foods that I eat, she could have some of them and stuff like that.
But that's not a bad start. That's not a bad start to give her fruits and vegetables. Let me ask you this, Arilia. How has being a single mom helped you as a woman business owner, an entrepreneur?
Multitasking and taking my time, because as a single mom, I have to be patient with my child, and sometimes clients can be that way. They get really excited. Oh, Miss Winn, when is my book going to be? And I have to tell them, hey, I know you're excited, like, and just kind of meet them at their level.
Mhm.
Another thing is having my child. I include her in almost everything that I do. So before COVID-19, we would go to different events. I'm taking her with me. She really has no choice. I mean, I wouldn't really give myself the option to drop her off anywhere just because
Mhm.
I want her to see the hard work that I'm putting in to get us to where we want to go. And I
That's
share with her often, hey, mommy, these are the things that mommy wants to do. What do you want to do? Okay, well, let's do them together and let's go about it this way. I have a business and stuff like that. And so even she's thinking about writing a book,
yeah,
and stuff like that at 5 years old. And I'm like,
good.
yes, like let me
That's
clean this all the way up so that way when she, says like, okay, mom, I really want to publish this book, then I'll be ready and knowing what to do.
yeah,
But
and also leaving a legacy. I think that's
Mhm.
important. My daughters are in their 20s, and since they were little, they did my work with me. You
Mhm.
know, they were there when I spoke. They were there when I wrote my books. They were there when I was helping people and coaching and just all the things that I've done. They have been there. And I think it's
Yeah.
so important for your children to see what you do, especially the same sex parent. Like
Mhm.
for your daughters to see, what their mother is doing, and for dads to see what their sons are doing. I think that's so important because more is caught than taught. So you teach as you show how you live and the things that you do. And hopefully if they can pick up a couple of things, that's
Yeah.
that's a great thing. You've done what you're supposed to do. And it's, of course, you want them to supersede anything that you've done, but I think it's important to leave a legacy, a stamp. How important is legacy for you, for your daughter?
So important. That's actually one of just in a roundabout way, it's a part of my mission for Winn Publications is family. Of course, Winn Publications is named after my family's last name, Winn. And so I try and include my family in everything, that legacy, honoring my ancestors, those women and men that came before me, and then thinking about, the generations to come and really taking that into mind, like generational wealth, not just for my family, but for the people
Mhm.
that I'm working with in their family too. I
That's
want them
right.
to win and I want them to succeed so that way they can also change their family's history. And so
Yeah.
I know that anybody that's attached to me, I'm going after the win so crazy so that all of our families, you feel me? All of our families
That's right.
can get, can take that next step, can level up
Yeah.
and change some things. And so far we're on track to do that.
Yeah. So where are you out of? Where do you live? And where do
Uh,
you publish your books?
yeah, so right now I'm living in Orange County, California, but I started my company in Texas. So I recently moved back home. I am from California. I recently moved back home about 2 years ago. And so since
Mhm.
then, I've been working here in California. And it's so crazy. The other day, you know how like Facebook shows you your memories.
Mhm.
Well, one of my memories came up, and it was talking about how like 11 years ago I was working on a book, and I was like so excited, and I was like telling people I'm working on a book, and I was like, how funny! 11 years later,
Wow. You got your own publishing
yeah, yeah,
company.
yeah, and I have my
How
own
about growth?
publishing company. I was
That's
like, come
growth.
on, like, you know,
Yes.
cheering on my past self, like, okay, girl, you know
That's
what you're doing.
right.
And so that just was kind of like encouraging for me to see that, like, okay, 10 years from now, I'll be able to look back on this moment and say, girl, hopefully, I'll be on a yacht somewhere and, maybe do
Hey,
a live like this, oh, I'm coming from the yacht out in
right,
the Bahamas or something, and
right.
stuff like
Because
that.
your publishing company will claim that it gets so big that you don't even have to be hands-on. Everybody else is doing it, and you're
Exactly.
on your yacht, overseeing
Yes.
with a great accountant. You need a great, a great accountant and a
Yeah.
business manager. But absolutely. So I want to talk self-publishing, and then I want to get into some of the services you offer as a publisher. All right, so let's talk self-publishing. A lot of people here, a lot of people out there, they don't know, okay, what is self-publishing? So I want you to explain that for the people.
Yeah, it's really simple. And I think that we overthink a lot of the things in the publishing process. Self-publishing is just you publishing your own work. It's you taking on everything from the beginning to the end, from the writing to hiring an editor. Please hire an editor. Do not try to edit it
Yeah,
yourself.
my first
Editing,
book had a lot of mistakes. In 2005, when I wrote mine,
yeah.
I had an editor. That's the thing. So finding you a quality,
a good editor. Yeah, quality is key because not everybody can do it. Editing to the designing of your book. If you open a book, that you have next to you and see how it's laid out. I say laid out, how it's designed, from the page numbers to where they have the author's name to how they have the chapters designed. So that's what you're doing. You're laying your book out. And then you're uploading it to, as a self-publisher, there's Amazon or there's Barnes & Noble. There's different platforms that are out there that can help you put your book together and turn it into an actual book. They'll take it from like a Word document or whatever program you use and turn it into an actual book. And then after that, you're responsible for the marketing and selling it. And I think that's where a lot of self-publishers struggle, is just that last part. They write the book, the whole process, and then it's the marketing and the promotional part of it all.
Because it's work. It's
work.
That's where the work
is,
right.
Mm-hmm.
All right. So you are a small publishing company. How would you describe your company? Because I want people to understand the levels of this. Because when you're not Simon and Schuster and the ones that they've heard of. So how do you describe your company when you're pitching it to someone or when someone comes to you?
Yeah, I'd say I'm an independent publisher. Not only do I publish my own work, I publish other authors' work. And recently I just kind of had a change with the different services that I offer. So I used to offer self-publisher services underneath Winn Publications. I no longer do that. I offer self-publisher services underneath my personal brand, Miss Winn. And so if you need help with like editing or formatting your book or uploading it to those different platforms, you can still come see me, but Winn Publications will not be on your book. Winn Publications, I'm looking for authors who are interested in the total publishing experience. They just want to write the story, pitch me your idea, and if I like it, okay, let's work. I'll take care of everything, those different processes.
What is everything? So if someone's watching right now and they're like, well, what is everything? Because I never wrote a book. Explain to them what is everything is. I might know, but somebody out there is like, okay, I haven't even written a book yet, but what does it entail? What's everything?
So everything is going back and looking at the editing, because I would assume that the work that you're going to send me is already edited. But what I'm finding is a lot of people they'll get someone to edit it and it still need 2 or 3 more rounds of editing. Get you a quality editor. You might have to pay a little bit more. And that's just the reality of it. You might have to pay a little bit more. So I go through and I make sure that it's ready to be published. I format it. I upload it to the different publishing platforms and then distribute it. Right now, that's the part that I'm really working on growing, is getting more distribution out there. And then creating a marketing plan. Having a book and being a publisher is a full-on business. And so we come up with sales goals. We come up with almost like a mini business plan, but for a book. So we're talking about sales goals. Okay, once this thing is done, how are we going to sell it? Okay, so we have this plan. This is what we're going to do. Not only that, but I come up with different things to pair the book with. And so if you're a self-publisher listening to this, take note of this. If you have a book, you should pair it up with a bookmark or a t-shirt or a mug and sell those things with it. Say, hey, this mug, I have a mug here. It says "Right Now, Think Later," and this is in the Winn Publications bookstore.
Wow.
But you can have a mug that's inspired from your book. Take a really awesome quote from your book, slap it on a mug and say, boom, whenever you go to an author event, or if you're doing a live video like this, you can, just casually.
Go ahead, sip, girl.
Casually share it, and they say, oh, what's that? Oh yeah, it's my book. And boom, there you go. You have, a conversation going, things like that. And so as a publisher, I'm thinking about these other ideas that authors themselves might not think about, just because they might not have that knowledge. And so when I say I do everything, that's everything. I go beyond just the book itself, but like,
Yeah.
okay, now that you have the book, how can we make a profit from it? And so,
Yeah, and I think that's so important, and thank you for laying it out, because so many people that want to write, I do book writing workshops, I do them virtually now, and I have 4 people on target to get their books out there, and none of them have ever written down their thoughts as far as, you know, laying it out as a book form. So I think it's so important for you to have explained that so people understand what's going on. Because writing the book, sometimes people think writing the book is the hardest, but really getting it out there and marketing it and everything else, that's the grunt work. You know, writing sometimes is easy for many people, especially if it's their story and just trying to figure it out, you know, how to format it, how to lay it out. That's something different. But as far as writing their thoughts, some people, for some people, it's easy, but to get into that grunt work, that's the tough part. Would you agree?
I absolutely agree. And I think one of the biggest things is just that marketing piece. That last little thing is, okay, I have the book now, how do I market it? And so that's one of the things that I just recently worked on, was putting what I know. I have it actually right here. It's called Author Marketing Manual. It's going to be up on my website, hopefully in the next couple of weeks. And this is what I use with the authors that I work with the complete process. If I'm working with someone, almost like traditionally, if I'm putting Winn Publications' name on it, they get one of these author marketing manuals. And in it has, you know, sales goals. We talk about target audience. We talk about book reviewers. We talk about different types of medias. Okay, so maybe you want to do something virtual. Okay, that's cool. Maybe you want to get on a radio station. Okay, let's reach out to some of the people in radio. Okay, what would you need to do that? Oh, you would probably need a media kit. And so we address all of these things, and I have it all put here into an author marketing manual. And I go through it with my authors, and I say, hey, this is our blueprint. This is our game plan. This is what we need to do.
That's good.
And we do it. And it takes, and I would say that this is the biggest difference probably between self-publishing and traditional publishing, is the amount of time that it takes. So if you're not someone who can wait for 6 months for your book to be ready, you're not going to want to work with Winn Publications. If you want your book to be done like in 6 weeks, and you have a deadline and you want to hurry up and get it out by the time you get done writing it, then holler at me on the Miss Winn side, and let me help you with an individual service. Because it takes a lot of work to prepare your book and to make sure that it's right. And so I tell, you know, those who are pitching their stories to me, well, do you have 6 months to wait for this to be out? If the answer is no, I'm going to say, okay, well, I'm sorry. Thank you for your interest, but I need at least 6 months to get your book together and ready for it to be on fire to meet our sales goal. I need at least 6 months.
And that's so important. And I'm glad that you said that, because so many people just want it out. They want, you know, get to people to reading it and to hear about it and go through the fanfare. But really 6 months is very fair, because you want to make sure it's right. You want to make sure all the T's are crossed, literally, I's are dotted. You want to make sure you have your game plan, because if your cover looks like crap, I'm going to put it out there, then who is going to be attracted to your book? I mean, people don't think about stuff like that. It has to be appealing. Yes, you want them to crack it open. You want them to read your words, hear your story. But if your first chapter is not good, or if that cover is not good, nobody will be checking for your book.
Yeah. And that's a whole nother problem that I see with a lot of self-publishers, is not only did you write the story and you edited the story yourself, but you also designed your cover yourself. And, you know, people, I see it often, just because I'm in different self-publishing groups and publisher groups, and I see it all the time where people are like begging for reviews. Well, if you had a really good looking cover in the first chapter that you can basically read on Amazon, if all of that was catchy, you probably wouldn't have that many issues getting reviews for your book, because, you know, people do judge your book by the cover. And if you're wanting to get your book,
this is a time where you should judge the book by the cover.
Listen, people
don't judge a book by its cover. but sometimes, and it's unfair because you might have some amazing things in that book, but unfortunately the cover is judged.
Yeah. Yeah. And even if you're thinking about getting your book distributed to places like Walmart or Target, or just you want to go beyond Amazon, well, you're going to have to probably relook at some of those things. Big distributors, they will read probably they'll look at the front of your book and the back of your book. Those things are marketing tools. Your cover is a marketing tool. How does your cover make that person feel? Not how does it make you, the author, feel, but your reader. A lot of times, being a self-publisher, we can't see beyond ourselves. And that's why you have to take the time to, okay, before you even put it out there for other people to buy it, put the book together and let some of your closest friends look at it, or people that read that genre, and say, hey, what do you think about this cover? How does it make you feel? Hey, what do you think about this text on the back? Does it make you excited to read the book? What about the first chapter? What do you think about it? A lot of people, want their book reviewed, and it won't happen because some of these key critical pieces are either missing or they're not done as well as they could be done. And so,
I'm so glad you said that, because a lot of people, yes, to you, your story is just fantastic, amazing, out of this world, wonderful, but you're not the one buying your book. You have to be authentic to you and your words and your story and whatever you're trying to convey to your readers, but you have to make it likable and interesting and fascinating, and they get to know, and what are they learning? You need to have a mission for your book. What do you want the reader to get out of this book? Because you can like it all day long, but you're not buying your book. You want others to buy it. So like Arilia said, you have to make sure that other people are attracted to it. Other people like the book, because if you like it, then you could just keep it on your computer. You don't have
well, yeah. Yeah.
So you talked about distribution, and you said that you want to get bigger, distribution. How are you distributing now, and distributing, I should say, and tell the people what that is, because you talked about Walmart and Target. Explain that a little bit to our viewers.
So right now, what I've been using only to distribute books has been Amazon and Barnes and Noble. And so that's fine. I've got those down. If you are someone who's just interested in those two platforms, great, I'm the one. But I'm looking to work with more so wholesale distributors. So on Ingram Sparks, they have way more distribution power than I want to say Amazon and Barnes and Nobles. I believe Ingram Sparks will distribute your book also to Amazon and Barnes and Nobles, but to others as well. There's so many out there, it's hard to name them all. And so that's what I'm doing, is I'm looking to work with the wholesale distributors, and then after that work with full sell. So the biggest difference is wholesale is just the amount of them, and so a full service one, also the requirements. So and that's why I'm saying it's important to have a sales goal. A full service distributor wants you to have at least $250,000 in book revenue in 2 years. And so that's my goal. In the next 2 years, me and my authors all together, we're going to have at least Winn Publications will be able to say in 2 years from now, we have made $250,000 in book revenue. And so, and that's what I'm saying. Book revenue can be your book, but it can also be a nice mug that has been inspired from a book. It could be a t-shirt. It could be, these different things. And they want to see that you're able to make money and you're able to market, because that's what the top 5 publishers do. You know them by name because they're good at what they do. And that's where I want to be at. I want to be working with full service distributors. That way I can just say, here, boom, the book is done. And I don't have to upload nothing to anywhere. I can just send it off to somebody else. That'll be a whole nother task that I can take off my plate and let somebody else do. And so, and that's just another thing. Distributing your book is just getting it out there into more people, in front of more people. And so go, you know, my whole belief is you have to go beyond Amazon and Barnes and Nobles or whatever platform that you're using. You have to go beyond that. You have to distribute it more if you want to have more people see it, if you want to have more people review it. You know, there's billions of people in this world. So
yeah,
do the math, you know?
yeah. Awesome. But that's, I mean, if that ain't growth for you in 2 years, look where you are. You know, I think that that's just amazing because this was a new business. You started this just by trying to help, I believe you said your cousin. And then now look, you published your books. You know, you're publishing others, you know. Hi, look.
Hi.
Hi. Heard a lot about you.
Pajamas. What is going on? What do you need?
Nothing.
I heard a lot about you. This is virtual. This is live. This is how we do it.
Okay, well, excuse me. Let me finish, okay? I'll be right down in a little bit.
From your brother.
Yeah, you can.
She said you could be talking about a single mama, so I got to show you the product.
She always makes a cameo in every single one.
She's like, hey, you wouldn't be a single mom if it wasn't for me. Let me just go on the slide in there. But she's cute.
Thank you.
But so in 2 years, you've grown so much. And you just talked about the top 5 publishers. If you guys want to know who they are, Google them. I'm all about education. Google them, research them. Because so many people think that they can go straight to them. Now, if you've sold books on your own and you've sold so many that somebody has taken notice, but what new authors don't understand, it's difficult because you got to have a literary agent, but then you can't usually get a literary agent unless you are a published author. So it's almost like, well, you don't have experience. Well, how do I get experience? Because you won't give it to me. So that's why a lot of people go with independent companies like Winn Publishing, and they also self-publish because it's difficult to just get one of the top 5. But once you sell, let's just say with Winn or another company, and then your sales, as she's saying, she's trying to get to that 250,000 mark with all of her authors, then she'll be able to expand the distribution. So in 2 years, you've grown this far. And you said in 2 years, you want to have, another 2 years, you want to have the 250,000. Where do you see Winn Publications in 5 years? So 5 years from the date you started, 5 years later.
Yeah. Ooh, I'm getting the goosebumps just thinking. In 5 years, honestly, I want to have a team. I'm setting myself up right now. So like I said, I started Winn Publications in Texas. So Winn Publications is a registered LLC in the state of Texas. I'm working on getting it to be registered in the state of California, and then my next stop is Florida. So those are going to be where Winn Publications headquarters will be. And just, I have it all set up. We got a west region, a middle region, and then an east region. And that's where I want to start. I want to take over first the United States, and then I want to go internationally. So in 5 years, Winn Publications will be known in all 50 states. And so far, what I've been doing to kind of get to that goal.
Wait, let me pause you for 1 second. My life coach hat is coming on. Did you hear her say when it happens? Not if, she's not sure, but when it happens, she will be. So she's speaking that. And sometimes you have to speak it, and then your mind will follow, and then your actions will follow. But first you have to speak that. Go ahead. I just wanted to point that out.
Yeah. So when that happens, so what I'm doing is through the Author Spotlight, I have a podcast that I do seasonally, but recently I've been going live just since during this pandemic is going live with different authors. But anyways, through the Author Spotlight, my podcast, I've met authors in 21 different states. And so I'm almost there. My whole thing is I'm gonna at least know one author in all 50 states, and then I'm coming to see y'all. So I'm looking at my calendar. That's why I keep looking at. Let me take it down really quick so I can show you guys. Everything in green are the states that I know at least one author in, and so I'm trying to, what's up with you people up north? I'm trying to come over there, and so this is my, you know what I mean? People talk about a whole vision board. This is my, here it is. This is part of my vision board right here, and just, every day I wake up and I see my map, and it makes me proud to know that I've covered almost half of the United States that at least know one
Wow.
person.
Hold that back up. Hold that back up. Look at that.
Yeah.
That's amazing. So you set out to tackle the United States first, and you said then you're going to go abroad. But hold that up. I want people to see that. So she's holding, say something so to make sure I can put the camera on you.
Yeah, so it's these are just the different states that I've met an author or two from. And this is just through, like I was saying, my podcast, the Author Spotlight. And so my goal is to at least speak to one or two different authors in these different states and then to come visit them. And so I'm already set up to go visit Texas, and then I'll be in Florida probably at the end of this year just because I have family and friends there. And so that's what I'm looking to do, at least, for the rest of this year, just because of COVID. And then after that, hoping to spread my wings and get to some of those other states next year.
See, folks, you got to have a goal, you got to have a mission, and you got to really believe in yourself that you can do it. Or what did she say? She said earlier that she wasn't even thinking about doing it. You were working for someone else, and then they didn't want to help you. So you took your knowledge and you helped yourself and others. Tell our viewers how important it is to not get knocked down when somebody doesn't want to help you or they're not giving you what you need. How did that fuel you? Tell the people how they can be fueled by no, or we no longer want you, or you're not the one, or this is not the time. How can you get fueled by that rejection, if you will?
Yeah, I want to say I was so angry. I was like, what? Like, what do you mean? And I was just like, okay, I want to say it's probably part of my personality to be a problem solver. Just I've always been that way, good and bad. I've always wanted to solve other people's problems. But for someone to say no, I just thought, like, who are you? First of all, who are you to tell me no? Like, I just didn't take that as the end all be all. And I think that's what a lot of people need to do is don't take one no. Don't let one no stop your show. Like I said, there's billions of people in this world. If one person will give you the opportunity, you can definitely go ask another. But the person who inspires me so much, and this is what just like helps me go hard in the paint after this publishing business and company, is Tyler Perry. He said, if they won't let you, sit at the table,
create your own.
Make your own. And that's why I was like, yes, that is me, making my own table and then inviting other people to join me.
That's right. Arilia, you better get to wood shop and start carving and creating.
Yeah. And so I was like, that's all right, cool. You're not going to let me sit at your table and help you make it better. Hey, I got my own coming, and definitely going to be a force to be reckoned with.
You're so right, Arilia. I think it's so important, and that was a valuable lesson. I believe he said that at the BET Awards. Was that his acceptance speech? Yeah, because everybody wants to be invited to the table, invited to the party. They want to be invited, but sometimes you just got to bum rush it. You just got to make your own way and create your own lane. I think it's so important, and that is such a powerful message, and really not allowing someone else's no to stick with you, to make you feel like you can't do it, it's impossible. Because you can do anything you want. You just got to want to do it, and you got to really educate yourself. It's so important to do that. So I'm an advocate of go look it up, go research it, because then I will help anybody who helps themselves first. It's so important, because you never know what you're made of until you're really forced to really show yourself who you really are. And then that's when your world will begin to shift. All right, so if you're just tuning in, we're talking to Arilia Winn. You've missed a good show, but that's all right. Go back to the beginning and share it with everyone else. And don't forget to subscribe. Subscribe below, because we're having a powerful conversation about publishing your book, but not just publishing your book, but really creating your own lane and really making your dreams come true. Arilia, so I want to talk to you as we begin to wrap up. I want to talk to you about your new book and all the other books that you're publishing and where they can find it, how they can listen to your podcast. but I want you to first just talk about your latest project and what it feels like to publish your own book.
Yes, let me pull it back out. So I published this one, like I said, June 28th, 2019. You can't really see it that well in the camera, but God is Gracious, again, a Christian single mother's thoughts, prayers, and poems for her daughter. What's so crazy about this book is I published it in a time where I was struggling so bad with my mental health. So my birthday is on May 29th. It's coming up. I'm going to be 30 years old, so I'm super excited.
You're a Gemini like me. I think we get bad raps.
We do, but we're really good people until you get on our back.
You are. So that's how yes, we have two sides. I can be outgoing, I can be loud, but then I can also be reserved, quiet, and to myself.
Yep.
Those are my two.
Yeah, you're spot on. And so, anyways, I was this time last year. It was my birthday, and anyone who knows me knows I've always loved birthdays. And I was dating this guy who, for 2 years, who just didn't get the memo. And it was my birthday, and I was kind of like already saying like, oh, we're not going to really celebrate. Just things were really different for me this time last year, just way, way, way different. And so I ended up having a mental break and just snapped. And I remember calling 3 different people, and this was on my birthday this time last year. That's what I'm talking about. And I remember calling 3 different people, and if one of those people did not answer the phone, we probably would not be having this live today. And like, it was that real. And all I knew to do was write. And so this, out of that hurt and that pain, I wrote a book about my daughter, and I wrote a book about just God's grace and his life leading me and protecting me and my child. Just not to offend anybody, if you're not into God or anything, that's okay. You could skip over this part. But for those that are, there's a story in the Bible about a single, I call her a single mom, Hagar, and God just covers her and her child. And I just was reminded of that, of God's promise that he would provide for me and he would provide for my child. And just because of that promise, I was able to get out of a terrible relationship. At the time I was in Texas, so I got out of Texas as fast as I could. Came home. I live with my dad here in California. California is expensive. Do not move here. Stay where you're at.
The gas is like $17 a gallon.
Oh my God, it's so expensive. I probably wouldn't be able to do it without my dad. So shout out, Dad. Thank you so much for loving me and letting me be up in here with my child. I'm so grateful. But out of that hurt and pain came this book. I had some of it written already.
That's usually how it happens. Out of what you think is a bad situation, it turns out to be just what you needed.
Exactly. And I want to say that this was my saving grace. If I did not have my business, I don't know, other than my child, I thought, well, if anything happens to me, and I have great friends and great family members, like she wouldn't need me. And I just kept thinking about, well, what about my business? I just started this. This is, supposed to be something that's going to change my future. This is going to be something that is going to make sure that I don't have to deal with some of these financial hurts and pains and things that I was going through at the time, just situational depression. And just thinking about that. And yeah, of course, this book is about my daughter and just reminiscing over all of the problems that I had already overcome, and just using that to fuel myself and say, hey, you've already overcome 100% of all of your bad days. You're going to overcome this too, and kind of how to just encourage myself in that through this book and just with Winn Publications. And so I'm going to tell you, I'm not one of those people who just gets into something because it's a trend. I feel like writing books and publishing a book is so trendy right now. I'm in this thing for the long haul. I do not play around about my books and about my authors. Yeah. And I definitely will say that's something that makes me different from a lot of people right now that are in the game. I'm not here for a good time. I'm here for a long time.
I love
time, but also more so a long time.
And you just mentioned that you will be 30. So you started this business at 26, 27 years old?
Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah.
So yeah, your future is bright. And you heard Arilia say she is not in it just for a good time, a short time. She's in it to win it. She's in it to win it
Exactly.
for a long time. Absolutely, she is in it for a long time. So do you have, before we wrap up, we got a couple of minutes,
Okay.
your other authors, you want to shout them out and tell people how they can get your books and what your website is and your social media handles?
Yeah, so you could check out myself and my other authors. We're all on winnpublications.com. I'm on Instagram at winnpublications.llc, and you can find everything else just between my website and there. Let's see, I'm actually working on another book for my Christian single mom friends. They've waited 2 years to have a solid book. I have something coming out this fall, and it's called Be Encouraged, Oh My Soul. And I go over just my experience with depression and being diagnosed with bipolar 2, and just some of the struggles I've dealt with financially as a single mom, as a Black woman who also loves God, and also lived in places where I, had to really come to terms with my Blackness and things like that. And so I'm going to be talking about that in this next book called Be Encouraged, Oh My Soul. And that will be out, like I said, hopefully coming this fall. So also just, get in tune, sign up for my newsletter on winnpublications.com. And every month I just send out an update. I also provide different services to self-publishers, such as ad opportunities. My website is now hitting at least 2,500 website visitors every month. And
wow.
So I'm telling people, come on, man, catch this train.
Yeah.
I'm trying to promote other authors and other books and things like that. And so you can find out more information about that as well at winnpublications.com.
And you know what? Thank you so much. But I want to thank you most of all for being transparent about your mental health. I'm a mental wellness advocate. I've had a therapist on Kendell Lenice Live. If you all missed that, or even Arilia, if you missed that, go catch it. And she's going to be back on next month. So mental wellness and therapy, they're near and dear to my heart, because I want to heal everyone. I want people to be able to recognize, a lot of things that are going on with them to get the help. So I thank you, first of all, for just being transparent and really speaking your truth. That goes a long way with me. And if you're out there and if you want the therapist to answer your questions, you might not be able to afford therapy right now. She's going to be taking all of your questions. So if you have any questions or something that you need to get off your chest to talk to the therapist, you can email me at kendelllenice@gmail.com, KENDELLLENICE@gmail.com. Send your questions and concerns, and of course, without your name and with your privacy. I'm going to read the questions to the therapist, and she's going to help you that way if you can't afford it. So, and you just made me think about that. So I appreciate that, Arilia, excuse me.
Yeah, absolutely. May is also Mental Health Awareness Month, so definitely I plan on sharing more of my story on my birthday. So follow my personal page as well at MissWinn_ on Instagram, and I'll be sharing my own personal story there. So. Yeah,
it absolutely is. She's absolutely right. So everybody, take care of yourself. If you feel something is wrong, something is off, something is not right, seek help, because everybody's out there exercising and they don't want to get fat. I hear people saying that they don't want Corona to get the best of them when they're snacking. But what are you doing for your mental health? You guys know I'm a meditation practitioner, so that's something to do. But there's so many different things that you can do. But first, you have to recognize and acknowledge what's going on with you. And if it doesn't feel right, it doesn't mean that you're crazy. I hate that term. That doesn't mean that. It means that you're off balance a little bit, and you got to get back on balance and figure out what's going on with you. But really, this is more than I bargained for.
Hey, this has been fun. Thank you so much.
You're so welcome. Any last words to that aspiring writer who would like to write a book, but they don't know where to start? Help them out in about 30 seconds.
Yeah, well, let me tell you right now, think later. That's how you write your book. Get it done.
And that's simple. And I have that, and I have that same advice. Get it done. Stop talking about it. Be about it. Get to your computer, laptop, typewriter, whatever you got, and just start writing. This has been fun. Thank you, everybody, for tuning in to Kendell Lenice Live right here on YouTube. Please, please, please subscribe, like, and share. And send a comment, too. Let us know what you thought about this show. And don't be stingy. Share it with your friends. Thank you so much for watching. Remember, you are a star, so don't allow anyone to dim your shine. Until next time, God bless. Peace. Subscribe below.